Ananya Kapoor's life takes a dark turn when her uncle and auntie betray her, selling her into the clutches of a ruthless brothel. Stripped of her freedom, she fights to escape, only to face a chilling new reality. A mysterious billionaire steps in, purchasing her from the brothel's depths, his piercing gaze hinting at power and danger. Is he her savior or her doom? As secrets unfold and every move risks her life, what twisted fate awaits? Dive into the suspense. This is Mr. Hope, your favorite narrator and best friend, as we are about to dive into this new story. Grab your popcorn and enjoy. Happy birthday, Anna! A chorus of voices cheered as she cut the cake, her eyes shining with gratitude. Thank you so much, she said, smiling shyly. This may not have been a grand celebration, but to Ananya, it was everything. Glasses clinked. Cheers! Someone passed her a glass of wine. Why aren't you drinking? Asked a colleague. I don't drink, she replied. You're 25 and you've never tried wine? One of the women asked, laughing. She's our cult girl, Shania, her roommate, teased playfully. Shy and spiritual. Ananya chuckled. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Auntie. Her heart dipped. That number never brought good news. Excuse me, she murmured and stepped aside to answer. Come home right now, came Auntie's clipped voice. Why would I? Ananya replied, confused. Her uncle's voice cut in suddenly. Be here in 30 minutes. The line went dead. Back at the table, Shania looked up. Everything okay? I have to leave. There's something urgent at my uncle's house. Oh no, you don't need to apologize, Anna. Just call me if you need anything, okay? Ananya hugged her. I love you. Love you too. She reached the old house in under 30 minutes. A car sat in the driveway, unfamiliar. That alone made her stomach tighten. Inside, the door was unlocked. The hall felt strangely still. Two unfamiliar men were seated on the sofa, their posture too casual, too bold. They looked at her with a scrutiny that made her skin crawl. One of them rose and circled her slowly, his expression unsettling. What's your name, Barbie? She didn't respond. Ananya, her uncle snapped. He asked you a question. Ananya Kapoor. The stranger nodded. He exchanged a glance with her uncle. We're ready to accept your offer. Offer? Her breath hitched. What offer? She asked sharply. The man reached out for her arm. She recoiled. Excuse me, why would I go with you? Her uncle's voice was low but firm. Come, Anna, let's talk in private. They led her to a back room. Her aunt followed closely. Her uncle began, voice soft and strangely formal. I raised you like my daughter, Anna, after the car accident. Please, she interrupted. Not that story again. I never asked for anything in return, until now. What are you talking about? He took her hands in his thumbs trembling slightly as they pressed over her palms. We're in deep debt. Everything's gone. This house will be gone too. And they offered help. A silence fell. You're asking me to… what? Be handed over like property. He looked down. That was all the answer she needed. Uncle, how could you? Her voice cracked. Auntie stepped in coldly. Don't be dramatic. We've done enough for you. And now you're selling me? Her voice grew louder, trembling. Auntie's tone sharpened. We had no choice. You always had a choice. Why didn't you sell your own daughter? Ananya! Her uncle's voice exploded just as Auntie's hand cracked across her cheek. The blow sent her to the floor. Don't forget your place, her aunt hissed. You owe us everything. Ananya's breath came in short gasps. The betrayal was too heavy, too deep. These people had never seen her as family, only as debt to be collected. She stood. I'm not going anywhere with them. She turned and sprinted for the door. Catch her! Her uncle roared. She dodged between furniture, heart pounding, but just as she reached the threshold, one of the men grabbed her, lifting her off the ground. Let me go! Let me go! She kicked and screamed, tears flowing freely. Please, uncle, don't do this! For a fleeting moment he hesitated, his expression almost softening, but then he turned away. Take her, Auntie said. No! Ananya twisted in the man's grip and managed to stumble free, only to be caught again. Don't fight, the man sneered. We don't want to ruin that pretty little face. She gasped as she saw blood where his grip had torn at her wrist. These people, her supposed family, had turned on her completely, and now even strangers had more power over her than she did. One of the men approached, pulling something from his pocket. Let's make this easy, he said, pressing a cloth to her nose. She held her breath, fighting the dizziness that came fast and hard. The scent was sharp, suffocating. You can't hold it forever, he murmured. Better to rest now. Her last thought before the world slipped into darkness was a desperate plea. Mama, Daddy, help me. Ananya awoke on a cold, unfamiliar floor. Her head pounded, and her ears were filled with the quiet sobs of others. As her vision adjusted to the dim light, she realized she wasn't alone. The room was full of girls, dozens of them, many younger than her, some barely in their teens. Fear painted every face. She struggled to sit upright, her body aching. The dread in the room was suffocating. So you're finally awake, Barbie, came a voice from the doorway. It was the man who had brought her here, the same one who had helped force her into the car. He leaned casually against the wall, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. Ananya turned her head slowly, her body too stiff to respond quickly. The nickname, spoken with mockery, sent a chill down her spine. Please don't call me that, she said, her voice brittle but defiant. He chuckled. Fiery, I like that. He stepped closer, and Ananya instinctively pulled back, brushing his hand away when he reached out to touch her face. Keep your hands to yourself, she said sharply. He didn't flinch, only grinned wider. You'll learn your place soon enough. Don't worry, everyone does. I won't, she whispered. I'd rather die than give in. The man's gaze darkened slightly, but he shrugged. That's not really your choice anymore. You belong to us now. Ananya's stomach twisted. She pushed herself up to her feet, trying to create space between them. I can pay you, she said quickly. Whatever you want, just let me go. He laughed. That's not how this works. You're not a person here. You're an asset. He nodded to the guards outside the door. Let's go. The Queen wants to meet you. Ananya froze. The Queen? You'll see. He grabbed her by the arm, but she yanked it away. Don't touch me. You're brave, he said, eyeing her. But bravery doesn't mean much here. Still resisting, she was dragged from the holding room, down a long corridor lit only by flickering bulbs. Each step echoed like a drumbeat. At the end of the hall stood a grand door. Her captor pushed it open. Inside, the room contrasted starkly with the gloom outside. It was opulent, carpets, chandeliers, velvet curtains, but the warmth expected from such luxury was missing. It felt sterile, calculated. A woman in her 50s sat in a throne-like chair at the center of the room. She was well-dressed, poised, and cutting through supari with a small blade like it was a ritual. Her presence was chilling. She's the one, the man announced, nudging Ananya forward. The woman's eyes narrowed as she examined the girl before her. Quite ordinary at first glance, she muttered, but I can see it now, a certain look in the eyes. She's strong, the man added, fights back, thinks she's still free. She'll be broken soon enough, the woman said coldly, then turned to Ananya. What's your name? Ananya stayed silent. Still stubborn, The woman smirked. Good, that makes it more entertaining. She stood and slowly circled Ananya, inspecting her like a piece of art. Then she waved a hand dismissively. She can start in the servant wing. If she proves useful, we'll consider more. The man seemed about to protest, but held back. You're not special, the woman added, voice icy. You're here because you were bought. That's the only identity you have now. Ananya clenched her fists. I'm not staying here. You can chain me or beat me, but I'll find a way out. The woman raised an eyebrow. Let's test that resolve. Without warning, she slapped Ananya across the face. The force nearly knocked her off balance, but Ananya didn't fall. She'll learn eventually, the woman said. Take her to holding. Back in the corridor, the man dragged her again. You really don't know when to be quiet, he muttered. Ananya didn't reply. Her mind was racing. Every second here felt like an eternity. She needed to survive long enough to find a way out. When they reached a locked door, he shoved her inside. The room was dark, musty, and empty. No window, no furniture. She stumbled onto the floor as the door slammed shut behind her. Darkness swallowed her whole. Her breathing grew ragged. She pressed her back against the wall, trying to find some sense of stability. Her body ached, her face stung, and her heart felt like it might burst. Please, she whispered into the darkness. Please, someone help me. But no one came. She crawled to the door and banged on it, again and again. Please let me go. I don't belong here. No response. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she slid to the floor. She curled into herself, arms wrapped around her legs, face buried between her knees. Will I ever get out of here? Will anyone even try? The room was silent, except for her broken sobs. Ananya had lost track of how many days she'd been locked in the windowless room. Without any natural light, she couldn't tell if it was morning or night. Her body ached, her lips were dry and cracked, and her eyes stung from dehydration. She could barely move. Hunger gnawed at her, but thirst burned hotter. Just as her limbs gave out, the door creaked open. A beam of sunlight hit her face, forcing her eyes closed. When she managed to open them, blinking against the brightness, she saw him, the man who had brought her here, standing in the doorway with a glass of water. Water! Her voice barely made it out, raw and broken. He didn't hand it to her right away. Instead, he smiled smugly. Now you want water? I thought you were ready to die. Ananya lowered her gaze. Please, she whispered. He crouched beside her. I'll give you water, even food. But first, you need to agree to show up tonight for a guest. She blinked, confused. Guest? Someone important. People with money come here, and they expect to be presented with girls. New arrivals, especially the untouched. His tone was ice. Her heart pounded. You'll go, won't you? He said, lifting her chin so their eyes met. Just tonight. Then maybe you'll get lucky. Ananya hesitated, but her body was too weak to resist. She reached for the water. Say yes first, he said, pulling the glass just out of reach. She clenched her fists. Survival first. Escape later. Okay. He smiled and handed her the glass. She drank it in one go. The coolness was almost euphoric. More? He offered. She nodded. I'll give you food too, but then you'll do exactly as I say. With no other choice, she accepted. He helped her to her feet, and for a moment, breathing in fresh air again, she felt like she was reborn. He led her to a chair by a small table, laid with warm, fragrant food. Her stomach growled violently. Eat, he said, but remember our deal. Ananya dug in. She hadn't tasted food like this in days. She ignored his presence, ignored his watching eyes, focusing only on survival. When she finished, she wiped her lips and pushed the plate away. Done? He asked. She nodded again. Good. Now let's prepare you. He took her to a room filled with other girls, all dressed in elaborate makeup and revealing dresses. A red dress was handed to her, tight, short, and nothing like anything she had ever worn. "I can't wear this," she said, her voice trembling. His expression darkened instantly. "Change, or you'll go back to that cell." Ananya froze. His tone left no room for doubt. "You can't escape," he added flatly, "so either play along or suffer." She took the dress and backed into the bathroom. Inside, she caught sight of herself in the mirror and recoiled. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her nose red, lips chapped, hair tangled. She barely recognized her own reflection. After splashing water on her face and scrubbing the dried blood from her mouth, she showered, letting the water soothe her aching body. A plan began to form. There was a small window, high, but not unreachable. She'd wait until nightfall, then she'd run. Dressed reluctantly in the red outfit, she stared at herself again. The fabric clung too tightly, the neckline too deep. But this was a costume for survival, not self-worth. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. "Just one night, then escape." Outside, a woman was waiting with a case of makeup. "You're late. Sit," she snapped. Ananya did as she was told, silently enduring the makeover. When it was done, she barely recognized the girl in the mirror. Her hair had been curled, her lips painted red, her eyes darkened to make her appear older, more glamorous, more saleable. "Barbie, is that you?" The man sneered as he entered. The nickname made her skin crawl, but she stayed silent. "Perfect," he said, circling her like a collector assessing a painting. "Just remember, behave tonight. The guest might pick you." He guided her into a line of girls waiting along a corridor. They all looked around her age, some younger. Most stared at the ground, silent and afraid. No one smiled. "Behave," he said again, "and whoever gets chosen, consider it a reward." Ananya swallowed hard. The door opened. A tall man stepped in, dressed in expensive clothes, his walk confident and slow. His presence sent a hush through the room. The girls stood still. Ananya kept her gaze glued to the floor. "He's here to inspect," the man announced. "All new arrivals." Each step of the guest echoed like thunder. Ananya could sense when he neared. She resisted the urge to look up. When he reached the girl beside her, she shut her eyes tightly, silently praying. "Please pass me by. Please." But then, a sharp nudge in her side. "Look up," the man hissed. Ananya hesitated, then slowly lifted her head, eyes closed. When she finally opened them, she came face to face with the guest. Their eyes met, and in that instant, everything else fell away. Ananya slowly lifted her head, her eyes still closed, steeling herself against whatever, or whoever, awaited her. When she finally opened them, they met the gaze of a man standing before her. For a moment, the world around her disappeared. Their eyes locked, and something stirred within her. Confusion, anxiety, and something else she couldn't name. It felt as though time had slowed to a crawl. She couldn't look away, nor could she understand why this man, unlike the others, made her freeze. He stared deeply into her eyes. At first, there was something soft, curiosity, maybe even care. But then it shifted, transforming into something darker. The warmth disappeared, replaced by a chilling distance. His gaze turned cold, almost hateful. "Why?" she thought. "Why is he looking at me like that? I don't even know him." Her heart pounded. She feared he might choose her, might pull her away like the others. But after a moment, his hand extended, not toward her, but toward the girl beside her. Ananya exhaled shakily. Relief swept through her, but it was tempered by confusion. Even as he led the other girl away, he didn't break eye contact with her until the moment he disappeared through a nearby door. She stood frozen, haunted by a single question. What was that? Tiger, the man who managed them, clapped his hands. "Better luck next time, girls," he announced. "Back to your rooms. Another client will come soon enough." Ananya returned to the shared room she was assigned. Normally, 5 girls stayed there, but tonight there were only 3. The others talked quietly, but Ananya paid no attention. Her thoughts were consumed by the earlier encounter and by her plan. She waited until darkness settled fully outside. When the soft breathing of the others signaled they had fallen asleep, she rose quietly from her bed, careful not to make a sound. Every step toward the bathroom felt like walking a tightrope. But before she reached the door, muffled voices stopped her. She turned, peeking toward the hallway. 2 guards were dragging a girl toward the far end of the corridor. Her sobs echoed off the walls. "Please, don't take me there," the girl cried out. "I won't try to run again, I promise." "You knew the rules," one of the men said coldly. Ananya's breath caught in her throat. She tried to escape, Ananya realized. She followed them at a distance, keeping to the shadows, until they reached the large chamber of the woman everyone called the Queen. Ananya hid behind the doorframe. Inside, the girl was thrown to the ground. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "Please forgive me, ma'am. I won't do it again." The woman didn't even flinch. She kicked the girl away and grabbed her by the hair, forcing her to stand. "How long have you been here?" she demanded. The girl trembled. "Oh, 1 year. Then you know the consequences of breaking our rules." "I was wrong," the girl cried. "I made a mistake." "You won't get the chance to make another." Ananya felt sick. The Queen's voice rose. "Bring all the girls here. Let them see. Let them understand." A loud bell rang through the compound. Within moments, dozens of girls flooded the area, their expressions blank, frightened or resigned. Ananya stood silently in the crowd, unsure if she should hide or bear witness. Then the Queen made her decree. "Punish her. Let this be an example." Ananya couldn't hold it in. "No!" The word escaped her lips like a scream. All eyes turned to her. Silence fell. "You can't do this to her," she whispered, voice cracking. The Queen turned toward her, her steps deliberate, her eyes hard as stone. Ananya shrank back, her knees trembling. The woman's voice was low and lethal. "Who said that?" Ananya couldn't speak. The Queen stopped inches from her face, her stare slicing through the air like a blade. In that moment, Ananya understood. There was no mercy here, no escape. Not unless someone from the outside came for her. Not unless something or someone intervened. As the Queen turned back to her guards, Ananya closed her eyes. "Please," she thought, "someone, save me." The woman in charge, cold, commanding, walked toward her with slow, deliberate steps. Ananya instinctively took a step back, heart hammering in her chest. "You speak far too often," the woman said, her voice sharp. "Shall I silence that tongue of yours too?" Ananya shook her head rapidly, trembling. "Then stand still and watch," the woman continued, her tone icy. "This is what happens to traitors. Let this scene burn into your mind. You belong to me, and you will never leave without my permission." She turned and gave a signal to the guards. 2 men stepped forward and restrained a girl at the center of the room. She fought wildly against them, panic and desperation filling her screams, but their grip was relentless. Ananya could barely breathe as she watched, frozen in fear. No one moved to help. Not a single person raised their voice. Not a single hand intervened. Everyone stood in place, silent, afraid. Ananya's heart clenched painfully as the girl begged for mercy, her sobs echoing through the room. Then one of the guards raised something in his hand. The moment it descended, Ananya turned away, unable to watch. She heard the girl's cries, the gasps, the horrifying stillness that followed. She covered her ears and pressed her palms to her face. She couldn't bear it. Her stomach turned violently. Memories flooded back, memories buried deep, unspoken, the day her parents were taken from her. She had been too young to understand it then, but the image of their bodies, lifeless, motionless, never left her. That day had etched something into her soul. Since then, the mere sight of violence, of blood, made her physically ill. She stumbled to the bathroom and leaned over the sink, emptying her stomach. Her whole body shook as she rinsed her mouth and pressed her hands to her spinning head. She could barely stand. That night, as she lay curled on her small bed, one truth echoed over and over in her mind. I can never escape this place alone, not unless someone rescues me. And with that final whisper in her heart, Ananya closed her eyes and prayed, God, please, please save me. 2 weeks had passed since that unsettling man last visited. In that time, 3 more men had come, all seeking something she dared not name. Ananya had been fortunate. The first week, she had been unwell, and the second, they simply passed her over. Though she was relieved each time, she knew her safety was temporary. Hey, snap out of it. We need to get ready, a girl said, tugging her arm gently. Ananya sighed, rose to her feet, and allowed herself to be dressed. They painted her face with makeup and, as always, she stood at the end of the line, trying to vanish behind her hair. Then the door opened and the man walked in. Unlike others, he didn't scan the group. He walked straight toward her. Her breath caught. She lowered her gaze, heart thudding violently in her chest. Her palms turned clammy. He stopped in front of her. Not her, someone interjected quickly. She's not ready. I'll send her in a moment. Ananya's knees nearly gave way with relief as the others were dismissed. But then Tiger approached her with a hard expression. What was that? He demanded. I don't want to go, she whispered, her eyes glistening. You think you get to choose? He said, grabbing her arm. He's a VIP. You better not mess this up. He pushed her into the room and locked the door behind her. There he was, sitting silently in a chair, smoking. He didn't look at her. It was as if he were lost in thought, staring at the wall. She stood motionless, unsure what to do. Come here, he said flatly, without meeting her gaze. Ananya hesitated. I don't like repeating myself, he warned, finally extinguishing the cigarette. Still, she couldn't move. He rose slowly and approached her, his eyes cold and unreadable. She retreated step by step until her back hit the wall. What's your name? He asked. Ananya, she stammered. He repeated it slowly, as though testing how it felt. I paid to be here, he said coolly. Are you going to cooperate or not? Tears welled in her eyes. Please, I wasn't supposed to be here. I didn't choose this. I was taken. He stared at her for a long moment, his expression hard to read. I didn't come for a story, he said. I came for what I was promised. Ananya took a step forward. I'll do anything, just not that. I'll pay you back, please. He exhaled sharply. Do you realize what happens if I walk out and tell them you refused? She froze. He stepped closer, close enough for her to feel the tension between them. Don't push me, he warned. When she didn't respond, he reached toward her shoulder. She flinched and stepped back again, arms tightly crossed. Please, I'm asking you to choose differently, she said. He paused. His expression shifted, just slightly, as if something flickered behind his stern mask, but it vanished. Suddenly, he turned away and muttered, Fine, you've made your point. She stood still, unsure if she had just barely escaped or if the moment would return. But the door clicked open behind her, and she realized, for now, she was safe. Ananya stirred, trying to turn over, but a heavy weight pressed down on her. As her eyes fluttered open, she realized a man lay partially over her. Panic surged as the memories of the previous night came rushing back. His anger, the confrontation, the way she'd hit her head and slipped into unconsciousness. Had he crossed the line while she was defenseless? Terrified to confirm her fears, she listened to the sound of his quiet breathing. His arm was wrapped around her waist, his leg rested over both of hers, and his breath fanned her neck. The warmth from his body was comforting, but his weight was suffocating. Summoning her courage, Ananya slowly lowered her eyes, bracing for the worst. Just as she did, a loud knock on the door startled her. "Wake up!" came a voice from outside. The man stirred and opened his eyes, locking them with hers. Their faces were only inches apart. For a moment, his gaze softened, but just as quickly, it shifted into something colder, harder. Why did he always look at her with such disdain? What had she done to deserve his scorn? The knocking came again, breaking the silence. He blinked and stood, freeing her from his grasp. A chill ran through her as the warmth vanished. Ananya glanced down at herself. Her clothes were torn, but her undergarments were in place. There was no pain, no physical violation. Relief flooded her. Despite everything, her dignity remained intact. He hadn't harmed her while she was unconscious. A fragile smile touched her lips. She looked up and saw him buttoning his shirt, his expression unreadable. There was something about him, a war within, visible only in fleeting moments. She wanted to thank him but didn't know how to begin. As he moved to leave, she blurted out, "Wait, thank you, for respecting my wishes." He stopped and turned slightly. "Don't be too happy," he replied coldly. "I don't take advantage of unconscious girls. That's all." The warmth in her heart dimmed. Why did he have to be so cruel, even in decency? "Can I ask you something?" she said, hesitating. He raised an eyebrow. "Can you help me get out of this place?" The words spilled out, and almost instantly she regretted them. What if he told someone? What if they punished her? He approached, hands in his pockets, his eyes scanning her. She shrank back into the bed, gripping the blanket tightly. "Do you really want to leave?" he asked. She nodded quickly, hope flickering in her chest. "What would I get in return?" "I'll do anything. Just please, get me out of here. I can't survive in this place." He studied her face, as if weighing her words. Then, without a response, he turned and walked away. Moments later, a voice ordered her to vacate the room. Dread crept in. She wrapped herself in the blanket and stepped into the hallway, prepared for the worst. She spotted him talking to the queen, the woman who ruled this place with a smile and steel. Her stomach dropped. Had he betrayed her? As the queen approached, Ananya braced for a slap, but instead the woman gently caressed her head. "You did a great job," she said, with an unfamiliar smile. "Go take a shower." Confused, Ananya complied. Her mind raced. Was this kindness real, or just a mask before something worse? Inside the bathroom, she discarded the blanket and caught her reflection. Her face was streaked with smudged makeup, her hair tangled, and a dark bruise marked her neck. The first mark. She touched it gingerly, wincing. She stood under the shower for what felt like forever, trying to wash away every memory, every trace. 20 minutes later, she stepped out to find another girl packing her things. "What's going on?" Ananya asked. "Tiger told me to pack your bag." "Why?" "Because you're leaving," a voice answered. Tiger had entered the room. "Leaving?" she echoed. "The man you were with bought you." Ananya's heart dropped. "What?" "You heard me. He bought you." Tiger gave a theatrical pout. "Too bad. I didn't get a chance to spend time with you." She remained silent. She could never see him as a friend, no matter how much he joked. "Anyway, you're lucky. Most girls never leave this place. Ananya quickly changed into her favorite dress, the one her aunt had packed for her before this nightmare began. As she stepped out of the room with her bag, a smile graced her lips. A rare, true smile. She was finally free. "Congratulations, Mr. Rudra Malhotra. She's yours now," the queen said. So, his name was Rudra. It suited him, sharp and foreboding. He didn't look at her as he walked toward the exit. The queen nudged Ananya forward. Women lined the hallway, their eyes filled with envy and contempt as Ananya passed. But she didn't care. Outside, the sky greeted her. Birds soared freely above. She inhaled the fresh air, her chest filling with a long-forgotten sense of peace. Then she caught Rudra watching her. Their eyes met, and he quickly looked away. She smiled again and said, "Thank you for saving me." He laughed darkly. "Who said I saved you?" She blinked, confused. "I only pulled you out of that place," he said, "but I've caged you in my own world now." Her breath hitched. "What? What do you mean?" "You said you'd do anything, so be patient. I'll tell you in time. For now, just come with me." And as she followed, one thought echoed in her mind. Is he my savior, or my destructor? Rudra left for the car without another word, speaking into his phone while glancing her way. Ananya couldn't shake the feeling that he was talking about her. "Stop overthinking," she told herself. Why would he even bother? He took the driver's seat and waited for her. Ananya hesitated. Could she really trust him? What if he hurt her, or worse? But did she even have a choice? She had promised to do anything if he freed her from the brothel. That promise now bound her to him. Heart pounding, she walked to the car and reached for the back seat. "I'm not your driver. Sit in the front," he ordered. Without meeting his eyes, she slid into the front passenger seat and placed her bag on her lap. "Seatbelt," he reminded her. She complied. After that, silence filled the car, heavy and suffocating. He didn't speak, and neither did she. Yet inside her, a storm raged. What will he do to me? What kind of work does he expect? Did I make a mistake trusting him? Her mind raced through every worst-case scenario, fear clouding her every thought. "Don't stress that little brain of yours," he said suddenly, his voice flat. "We're almost there." She turned sharply to look at him, startled. His eyes stayed fixed on the road, unreadable. Can he read minds? "No, I can't read minds," he replied dryly, "but yours is easy." Ananya's jaw dropped. "Close your mouth or a fly might get in." The car screeched to a halt as he finished speaking. She quickly shut her mouth, trying to hide her shock. He stepped out without another word. Did he really just guess her thoughts again? "Come out, we don't have all day," he called without looking back. Ananya followed and came face to face with a grand mansion, tall, elegant, and intimidating. Despite its beauty, something felt off, cold. "Should I run?" "No, you shouldn't," came his voice again, sharp and stern. "Don't even think about escaping. You'll regret it. You don't know who I am." Her body tensed. Could he really know what she was thinking? She didn't ask. She simply followed him past a breathtaking garden and into the mansion. The guards greeted him, but he ignored them. His long strides forced her to hurry just to keep up. He stopped at the grand doors and leaned toward her. "Welcome to my dark embrace," he whispered. The words, spoken so close to her ear, sent a chill down her spine. Inside, the mansion was magnificent. A wide staircase led to the upper floor. Dark tones, accented by gold and tan, decorated the hall. A large sofa occupied the center of the space, flanked by a couch and a wall-mounted TV. To the side, a dining table sat just outside what seemed to be the kitchen. It looked like a home meant for many, but where was everyone? "You can admire the decor later," Rudra said, sitting down. "I'm a busy man. Don't waste my time." He signaled with his brow for her to sit opposite him. Ananya complied quietly, sitting with her hands on her thighs, eyes averted. She busied herself fiddling with the hem of her kurta. "Do you know me?" he asked. She shook her head. She'd tried to recall him ever since that night, but nothing surfaced. "I thought so," he said. "My name is Rudra Malhotra, but you will not use my name. You'll call me Sir. I own a multinational company. I'm one of the richest men in this country." Ananya didn't react. His wealth meant nothing to her. "People call me heartless, ruthless," he continued. "And they're right. I show no kindness, especially to people like you." His tone was venomous, clearly meant to intimidate. He settled back into the couch like a king on his throne, watching her with sharp, unwavering eyes. "You said you'd do anything if I freed you from that place." She stayed silent. "When I ask something, I expect an answer," he snapped. "Yes," she whispered. "Good. Now, do you know how much I paid to get you out?" She shook her head. 50 lakh. Ananya gasped. Her hands trembled. That was more money than she had ever imagined. She could never repay it. Rudra seemed to read her thoughts again. "I know you can't repay it. That's why I have an offer." He slid a file across the table toward her. She hadn't noticed it earlier. "It's a contract," he said calmly. "It states you'll stay here as my mistress for 3 years. You'll fulfill my personal needs, whatever they may be. I won't pay you, but once the contract ends, you'll be free." Her hands shook as she picked up the papers. The words blurred in front of her eyes. The world felt like it had just shifted beneath her. Ananya took the contract from Rudra with trembling hands. As her eyes scanned the words on the page, the world around her faded. The ground beneath her seemed to shift, and her breath caught. A minute passed in silence before she finally spoke. "What kind of work is this?" Rudra leaned back with a smirk. "Good question. Honestly, I thought God gave you beauty and skipped the brains." He chuckled at his own comment, but Ananya ignored it. She needed answers, not insults. "You'll be repaying that hefty amount by working as my personal maid," he said. "You'll take care of everything, from managing my routines to assisting in my office. You'll ask permission before doing anything, especially talking to any man. You'll be on call day or night to attend to every need I may have, personal, professional, and physical." Ananya shot to her feet, her face pale. "I'm sorry, I can't do this," she said firmly. "Give me time, I'll repay you, with interest." Rudra raised an eyebrow and rubbed his chin. "And how exactly would you manage that?" "I'll find a job," she said. "I'm educated, I have experience. I'll earn and repay every rupee." He laughed again, his amusement biting. "You think anyone will hire you?" "I have 2 years' experience. Why wouldn't they?" "Because I said so," he replied coolly. "And no one wants to go against me. I can shut down their businesses with a single call." Ananya's hope began to unravel. "I can't live here," she whispered. He laughed, louder this time, a sound that echoed off the grand hall walls. "Where would you go? Back to that cramped apartment you shared with 2 other girls? Or to your broke uncle who doesn't even have a roof over his head?" Her eyes widened. "How do you know?" "I make it a point to know everything about anything I own. You are expensive, Ananya. You think I'd buy you without doing my homework?" She swallowed hard. "Oh, and your uncle," he added casually. "He still owes me money, even after selling you. Be grateful I didn't add that to your debt." Ananya felt her knees tremble. He stepped toward her, closing the distance between them. "If you can return the money by evening, you're free to go. Otherwise, sign the contract." He picked the papers up and placed them in her hands. "I don't do verbal deals," he explained. "I'm a businessman. This ensures you don't run and leave me unpaid. If you break the contract or attempt to escape, The penalty is 1 crore rupees. 1 crore? The words escaped her lips. You have until evening, he said, and walked away. She stood alone in the center of the hall, the contract clutched tightly in her hands. She was at a crossroads, caught between a past she couldn't return to and a future she didn't want. A gentle voice interrupted her thoughts. Hello? Ananya looked up to see a girl about her age. She forced a polite smile, but the girl seemed taken aback, staring at her as if processing a surprise. Sir asked me to show you your room. My room? Ananya echoed. Yes, come with me. The girl tried to start a conversation, asking for her name. Ananya Kapoor, she answered reluctantly. Nice name. So, he hired you as a new maid? The girl asked casually. Ananya nodded. All the best, the girl said, but it sounded more like a warning than encouragement. I'm Kiara, she added. You didn't ask, so I thought I'd tell you. Oh, sorry. It's okay, maybe we can be friends. She held out her hand. Ananya hesitated but shook it with a small smile. Kiara seemed kind, maybe too kind for this place. You can decorate this room however you like, Kiara said. Call me if you need anything. I'm usually in the kitchen. With that, she left. The room was simple. A single bed, a wooden cupboard, a curtained window, and an attached bathroom. Ananya placed her bag on the bed and sat down, unfolding the contract once more. The day blurred into hours of contemplation. That evening, Kiara returned. Sir is waiting in the hall. He says he wants an answer, though I have no idea what kind. Ananya nodded, her decision already made. She had spent all day weighing her options and concluded that she had none. The salary from her past job wouldn't suffice. She had no assets, no one to ask for help, and she couldn't live under the burden of a debt she'd never repay. Her hand trembled as she signed the papers. When she handed them to Rudra, he looked satisfied. Smart choice, he said. I agreed because I don't believe in owing anyone. Let's go over your duties then, he said, gesturing for her to sit. I wake up at 6. You'll wake at 5 to prepare my coffee and start your morning chores. My room and bathroom should be spotless by the time I return from the gym. Breakfast at 8 sharp. Ready to leave by 8:30. You'll handle all my personal tasks in the office. Dinner at home. This is just the beginning. Tasks will be added. Ananya nodded silently. Now, the rules. She looked up. You will not disobey me. You will not question or interrupt me. No talking to male staff. No touching my things. No leaving the house without me. No interference in my business or personal life. And never forget your role here. You are a maid. Nothing more. If you break any of these rules, the consequences will be harsh. He paused. I don't respond to begging, and you won't like my punishments. Ananya swallowed hard. And eat properly, he added. There's no shortage of food here, and I don't want skeletons wandering around my house. She blinked. Did he just call her a skeleton? You may go. He dismissed her. Back in her room, Ananya opened the window and looked at the night sky. Tears welled in her eyes. What sin have I committed to deserve this punishment? She whispered. Every time she thought things might get better, life proved her wrong. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Food, came Kiara's voice. I'm not hungry, Ananya replied, without opening the door. Outside, birds chirped, their wings slicing through the sky. They can go wherever they want, she murmured. So lucky. All she had wanted was to be free, but freedom, it seemed, had a different price. Rudra hadn't saved her. He had simply caged her in his own shadow. After dinner, Rudra returned to his private quarters, a place of silence and control. He took a bottle of wine from the cabinet and poured himself a glass. With slow, practiced movements, he sank into the leather couch, his mind wandering back to her, Ananya. He stared into the swirling liquid, his jaw tight. He had told himself she was just a fleeting thought, a distraction he would soon shake off. But she wasn't. She had slipped beneath his skin in a way no one ever had. Uninvited, unwanted. He rarely visited brothels. They weren't his style, too chaotic, too predictable. But something about that day had pulled him there. He had walked in directly from the office, tired, irritable, searching for something he couldn't name. And that's when he saw her. She was standing at the end of the queue, face lowered, hair falling over her cheeks like a curtain. She wasn't trying to be noticed. On the contrary, it was like she was willing herself to disappear. That was what made him look. That fragile presence, that quiet resistance. At first, he thought she resembled someone from his past. Her. The same quiet eyes, the same softness that used to comfort him once, and torment him later. He'd felt something unfamiliar then. Not desire, not pity. A storm. Instead of choosing her, he had picked the girl beside her. He hadn't even glanced back. He had told himself it was better that way, that it was the smart choice, the controlled choice. But her eyes haunted him. Days passed, nights, even longer. Her face drifted into every quiet moment, disrupting his thoughts, mocking his restraint. He tried to work more, burying himself in deals and deadlines, but she lingered, until finally he gave in. He went back. This time, he didn't browse or pretend to be indecisive. He walked straight to where she stood, again at the edge of the lineup, again trying to vanish. Without a word, he reached out and took her arm. She resisted, just a little, enough to stir something in him again. Frustration, fascination. In the room, he waited, lit a cigarette, let time stretch between them. When she entered, he kept his gaze away. He didn't want her to know she had power, didn't want her to see that he remembered every detail of her face. He gave a command. She froze. He gave it again. Nothing. She wouldn't comply, not out of arrogance, but out of sheer will. He could see the fear in her eyes, but also the resistance. She wasn't pleading yet, not fully. She was still trying to hold her ground. That irritated him, but deep down he respected it. He approached her, slowly. She flinched. Her back touched the wall. She could barely meet his eyes. Why does she affect me like this? She whispered her name, barely. Her voice cracked, her fingers trembled, and then, finally, the request. Please, let me go. Rudra didn't know what happened after that. Not clearly. He remembered her collapsing. He remembered catching her before she hit the ground. And her voice, soft, nearly gone. Be my savior, not a destructor. That night, he didn't leave her. He watched her sleep, face pale against the sheets, makeup smudged from tears. Her breathing was shallow but peaceful. He didn't touch her again, didn't dare. Instead, he laid beside her, facing the ceiling. For the first time in years, sleep found him without effort, deep, uninterrupted. In the morning, the sun woke him, and her face was the first thing he saw. She stirred and sat up slowly. Their eyes met. She looked confused, relieved, scared. And then she asked him for help. That was the turning point. When she promised to do anything, if he would help her escape that place. A plan began forming in Rudra's mind. He told himself it was practical, strategic. She had a connection to someone from his past, and that connection could serve his goals. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. He couldn't let her go. He instructed his men to investigate her background. Within hours, he had everything. Her full name, family history, education, vulnerabilities, and the most interesting fact of all, she was the niece of a man who owed Rudra a significant debt. That sealed it. He didn't buy her out of sympathy. He did it because her face reminded him of everything he wanted to forget and everything he needed to overcome. Her presence would be his constant reminder. Her eyes, her voice, her silence, they would fuel him, sharpen his instincts, and harden his resolve. She had closed her eyes that day as they walked out of the brothel. The wind had lifted her hair, and for a second she looked free, light, hopeful. But he knew that hope wouldn't last. She had no idea what kind of cage she was stepping into. She wasn't free. She was his now, not to break, not to cherish, but to remind him of what innocence looks like before the world crushes it. And when she no longer served that purpose, he would let her go, just like every other beautiful thing he'd ever ruined. Ananya's sleep was gently broken by the soft chime of an alarm. She stirred, eyes still shut, as the subtle melodies of morning filled the air, birds chirping outside her window, sunlight seeping through the curtains, brushing her face with warmth. For a moment it felt like peace. Wrapped in the comfort of her duvet, she wished she could stay in that fragile illusion a little longer, that maybe everything she had endured had just been a bad dream, that she would wake to find her life untouched, her freedom intact. But as her eyes slowly opened and adjusted to the ceiling above, reality returned with a weight she couldn't ignore. This wasn't a dream. This was her new life. She exhaled deeply, grounding herself. It was up to her now, whether she endured it in despair or with quiet determination. If I do everything right, she told herself, maybe he'll leave me alone. Maybe I'll stay safe. That was all she wanted, not kindness, just safety. A sharp knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Kiara standing outside, looking mildly impatient. "You're late, madam," Kiara said with a raised brow. "Late?" Ananya blinked. Kiara pointed at the clock. "It's already 5:15. You have work to do. Sir's coffee, remember? He's very punctual. Come to the kitchen quickly. I'll walk you through everything." Ananya quickly closed the door, grabbed a simple kurta and salwar, and rushed to the bathroom. Within minutes, she was downstairs, joining Kiara and a few other women already busy in the kitchen. The air was filled with the rich aromas of breakfast being prepared. Kiara gestured to the supplies. "Start here. You've got 10 minutes. He takes 2 full spoons of sugar in his coffee," she added. Ananya frowned. "That much?" "It's unhealthy." Kiara shrugged. "We don't get to comment." Ananya bit her tongue and focused on her task. "I don't care about his health. I'm here to repay my debt and stay out of trouble." With the coffee ready, she placed it on a tray and climbed the stairs to the first floor. According to Kiara, the second room belonged to him. She paused at the door, inhaled deeply, and knocked. No response. Tentatively, she nudged the door open and stepped inside. His room was large, luxurious, designed with polished elegance and understated wealth. A king-sized bed dominated the center. Nearby, a couch and glass table held the remnants of last night, an empty wine bottle and glass. Soft light filtered through the heavy curtains. She placed the coffee on the table and gently pulled the curtains open, letting sunlight bathe the room. That's when he stirred. The man groaned and slowly opened his eyes. When he saw her, his expression softened into an unexpected smile. "You're back," he said, teeth flashing. For a moment, Ananya was caught off guard. That smile, it disarmed her. He looked almost approachable. But just as quickly, the mask slipped. He grabbed her hand and pulled her forward, making her stumble onto the bed and land awkwardly against him. His chest rose and fell beneath her. He ran a hand over her head and back, a touch too familiar. She tensed. Then, just as abruptly, he shoved her aside and sat up straight. "Don't you ever touch me or my bed again," he snapped. Ananya stared at him, stunned. What just happened? Moments ago, He'd reached for her. Now he was treating her like she had invaded his space. "Understand?" he said, voice laced with threat. She nodded. "Yes?" "Yeah, what, sir?" "Good." He extended a hand. "My coffee?" She handed it over without a word. Then she left the room to fetch cleaning supplies, returning shortly to begin her work. As she moved about, she felt his eyes follow her. Quiet, watchful, invasive. It made her skin prickle. Still, she ignored it. This was her new life, and she would have to get used to being watched. Resisting him would only make things worse. She turned to clean a small table adorned with elegant items. A glass vase stood in the center, sleek and modern. "Be careful," he said suddenly. "That vase is imported, 70,000 rupees. She blinked and continued with delicate hands. She moved to another piece. "That one's 85,000. "Why is he telling me the price of everything?" she thought, slightly annoyed. "As a reminder," he replied, as if reading her mind. "I'm very possessive about my belongings." His steps approached from behind. "The more valuable something is, the more I guard it," he murmured. He was close now. Too close. She could feel the heat radiating from him. His breath grazed her shoulder as he leaned in, trapping her between his arms. "I don't tolerate a single scratch on what's mine," he whispered against her ear. Ananya froze. Then just like that, he stepped away. "I expect water and my clothes ready after the gym. No delays, no excuses," he said, and exited the room. Only when the door clicked shut did she realize she'd been holding her breath. She completed her tasks, laid out his outfit with care, and made sure everything was as Kiara had instructed, right down to his favorite body wash. Then she left before he could return. In the kitchen, she asked about his breakfast. "Bitter gourd juice," Kiara said. Ananya made a face. "That explains a lot." "What?" "Nothing," she replied quickly. She served breakfast just as he came downstairs, crisp and well-dressed. He sat, glanced at the plate, then looked at her. "Why are you standing there? Go get ready for the office." Ananya nodded. "And eat something. I don't like sluggish people around me," he added, while sipping the juice. "You have 20 minutes. She rushed back to her room, grabbed 2 slices of toast, and sipped her tea while changing. It reminded her of her old job, always in a hurry, always multitasking. She thought of her cousin Ruhi, how their aunt used to chase her around with a spoonful of food. But no one ever ran after Ananya. She'd always looked after herself. 15 minutes later, she came down in jeans and a top. He took one look at her and frowned. "Is that what you're wearing?" She nodded hesitantly. He stepped closer. "You won't wear this again." Ananya glanced down, confused. "What's wrong with it?" He glared. "Don't argue." Reaching forward, he tugged at the neckline and tore it slightly. She gasped. "My company makes clothes," he said sharply. "What do you think my employees will say if you show up looking like this?" His words cut deep. "I have standards, even if you don't," he seemed to say. Tears pricked her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "Kiara," he barked, "give her something decent to wear. I won't have people thinking I picked her up from the streets." Then he turned and left. "You've got 5 minutes," he called over his shoulder. "If you're not in the car by then, you're gone." Ananya stood there, breath trembling, hands clenched. Is this how I'm going to live for the next 3 years? Insulted, silenced, and bound to a man who saw her as nothing but a debt to manage. But she had no choice. This was her new life. Kiara had lent Ananya a shirt and jeans, which thankfully fit well aside from the slightly shorter hem, due to Ananya's taller frame. She changed quickly and rushed to the parking area, not wanting to test Rudra's patience any further. He was already seated in the car, and when his gaze scanned her from head to toe, he gave her a subtle nod of approval. She quietly slipped into the car, choosing the farthest corner of the seat, keeping as much distance as possible. As the engine started, she turned her face to the window. The morning breeze hit her skin like a whisper of temporary freedom. For now, at least, she was outside that gilded cage. She noticed Rudra was either staring into the distance or scrolling through his phone. Sometimes she found him unreadable, like a man holding back storms behind a composed face. After about 25 minutes, the car pulled to a stop. The driver opened Rudra's door while Ananya stepped out on her own. The air outside was crisp, and as a gust of wind tossed her hair across her face, she instinctively closed her eyes to steady herself. When she opened them, a towering glass building stood in front of her. Modern, sleek, proudly bearing the name of a textile company. The morning sun gleamed against its surface. People in formal attire rushed through the entrance while guards managed the flow. Rudra leaned in close to her, voice low and sharp. "I expect no missteps from you. Think twice before doing anything foolish." His words stung, not because of their content, but the way he said them, with steel and no softness. She nodded silently as he strode ahead with long, purposeful steps, ignoring everyone in his path. She followed as expected. Inside, every employee who spotted him immediately stood and greeted him. None received a response. So this is how he rules his world, she thought, cold, distant, respected out of fear. Everyone turned to stare at her. Their curious eyes followed her as though she were an alien among them. Most of them were men. Does he intentionally avoid hiring women? She wondered, but brushed the thought aside. It wasn't her concern. Rudra addressed the room without looking back. "This is Ananya Kapoor, my new personal assistant. Get back to work if you value your jobs." Without delay, everyone resumed their tasks like programmed machines. They entered the elevator. Rudra stood in the center, regal and confident, while she took refuge in a corner. He pressed the button for the 5th floor. The silence between them was heavy, almost suffocating. She could barely breathe in his presence. The moment the elevator doors opened, she exhaled in relief. Then a cheerful voice broke through. "Good morning, buddy." A woman around Rudra's age approached with a bright smile and threw her arms around him in a friendly hug. He responded with equal familiarity. The ease between them made Ananya pause. Are they together? She wondered. Their comfort with each other hinted at something close. Then the woman noticed her. Her eyes widened, mouth slightly agape. Ananya instinctively touched her face, wondering if something was off. Before the woman could speak, Rudra addressed her question without being asked. "This is Ananya Kapoor, my new personal assistant." "Oh," she said, forming a small O with her lips. "So, you fired him?" "Number is still here," Rudra replied. "She's just in charge of my personal affairs now." The woman looked between them with narrowed eyes. "So is she your new girlfriend?" she asked playfully, giving him a light punch on the arm. "Girlfriend?" Rudra scoffed. "No." Then looking directly at Ananya, he added, "She's my possession." Ananya's gaze remained fixed on the floor. "Possession?" the woman echoed, confused. "Don't think too much. Just follow instructions," Rudra replied, dismissing the subject. He turned back to her. "I want clothes for her by this evening. You know my standards." "Got it, Captain," she grinned, then turned to Ananya with a hand extended. "Hi, Dolly." Ananya hesitated. Hello?" "Come on, smile a little," the woman said cheerfully. "My name's Tanny, by the way, but I'm calling you Dolly. Your face is too sweet not to." Ananya gave a hesitant nod. "That's fine." Tanny led her to a small studio space to take her measurements. She chatted constantly, while Ananya responded with polite smiles and occasional nods. "I'm going to make you such stunning outfits. He won't be able to take his eyes off you," she said with a wink. Ananya tensed. "That's the last thing I want." She muttered, "What if I don't even want him to look at me?" Tanny paused. You said something?" Ananya smiled nervously. "No, just that I should get going." "Right, he'll throw a fit if you're late." Back in the hallway, Ananya asked a nearby man where Rudra's office was. "Do you have an appointment?" he asked bluntly, eyes still on his screen. "No, but he said he wanted me in his office in half an hour." "Name?" "Ananya Kapoor." The man looked up, scanned her briefly. "Ah, got it. Go straight, then left. His office is there. Hurry. He doesn't like to be kept waiting." She thanked him and hurried down the corridor. A plaque on the door read, "CEO Rudra Malhotra." She knocked. "Come in," came his voice. Inside, another man sat across from Rudra, and the moment she entered, his eyes landed on her with a look that made her stomach twist. "Well, who's this beautiful lady?" the man said with an unnerving grin. Ananya didn't respond. She kept her eyes lowered, uncomfortable. "She's my personal assistant," Rudra said evenly. "Your assistant or your new toy?" The man chuckled. Rudra's expression shifted coldly. "Mr. Verma, this is a business meeting. She's with me, and when someone is with me, they're off limits. Understood?" Verma raised his hands. "Of course, just teasing." Rudra turned to her. "Go make 2 coffees." Ananya nodded quickly and left, heart pounding. The atmosphere in the room had turned suffocating. She couldn't get out fast enough. She returned with the coffee minutes later, balancing the tray carefully. Without lifting her eyes, she approached the table and placed the mugs down, eager to leave. But just as she moved to step back, she felt fingers wrap around her wrist. It was Verma. Her eyes widened. How dare he? Her skin crawled. Rudra hadn't reacted yet, but her breath caught in her throat. What does he think I am? As Ananya reached for the tray to pull her hand back, Mr. Verma suddenly grabbed her wrist. Her breath caught. Her eyes widened in shock. How dare he? His grip tightened when she tried to pull away, fingers digging into her skin. "So soft," he muttered. Rudra said nothing. "I must say, Mr. Malhotra," Verma added, eyes never leaving her, "your taste is always impeccable, be it cars or company." Ananya's skin crawled. His gaze was invasive, crawling over her with a familiarity that made her stomach twist. She searched Rudra's expression for some hint of intervention, some sign that he would stop this. But for a moment he simply watched. Foolish me, expecting something else from him. Verma gave a sudden jerk, pulling her closer and wrapping an arm around her waist, forcing her to stumble into his lap. Her breath hitched as she froze, arms trapped in his hold. That was when the table slammed. With a sharp bang, Rudra stood. "Leave!" he barked, voice thunderous. The force of his words made both of them jolt. Verma's grip loosened instantly. Ananya took the opportunity to retreat, stepping backward until her spine hit the wall. Her hands trembled. "I said leave," Rudra repeated, this time with such fury that the words shook the air around them. Verma stood slowly, jaw tight. "You're making a mistake, Rudra." "As if I care." "You'll regret disrespecting me like this. For her?" "You have 5 seconds before I call security," Rudra snapped. Verma's expression darkened. "You'll pay for this. Touch what's mine again, and I'll make sure no one remembers your name in business." With that, Verma turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Now they were alone. Rudra's eyes shifted instantly to Ananya. fiery, unrelenting. Her breath caught again, but this time for a different reason. His presence filled the room like a storm brewing. He stepped toward her. She didn't dare move. She knew that look, that expression that flickered between rage and something far more dangerous, control. She flinched as he closed in, trapping her with a hand on either side of the wall. Her body froze. His anger rolled off him like waves of heat. "You showed your true colors awfully fast," he growled. Her eyes remained fixed on the floor. "Didn't take long for you to confirm what you really are." She looked up then, furious tears burning behind her eyes. "What do you mean?" "You wanted that attention. You encouraged it. Don't deny it." "That's not true," she cried. "You saw what happened. He was the one who—" "Oh, please," Rudra cut in coldly. "You knew exactly what you were doing." She stared at him in disbelief. How could he? After everything. "This isn't some place you can play your old tricks," he said, voice low, venomous. "You're not at that brothel anymore." Her voice shook, but she held her ground. "You have no right to say that. I didn't ask to be touched. I didn't invite it." He leaned in closer, dropping his voice to a dangerous whisper. "You're mine. That means no one else lays a hand on you." Ananya's chest tightened. "You're not a thing," she whispered fiercely, voice trembling with hurt. "You don't own me." Rudra let out a dark laugh. "You're under my debt. I've bought your time. That gives me every right." She pushed him away, finally snapping. "I may be paying a debt, but that doesn't make me less human, and it certainly doesn't make me what you keep calling me." He paused. Her defiance took him by surprise. "I am not a prostitute," she said firmly. Rudra's eyes narrowed. "Be careful what you say next." "You think you can control everything, but you don't control my dignity," she said, voice breaking. "Not that." His hand twitched. For a moment she thought he might lash out, but instead he exhaled sharply and stepped back. "You're treading on thin ice," he said. "I'd rather fall through it than keep pretending I deserve this," she said, chin trembling but raised. The silence that followed felt like a battlefield frozen in time. Finally, he turned his back to her. "Get out," he muttered. She didn't need to be told twice. She rushed out the door, her cheeks burning, heart racing. Alone in the hallway, Ananya leaned against the cold wall and closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek before she could stop it. "How am I supposed to survive this for 3 years?" She wiped her face and took a shaky breath. "God, if you're listening, help me, please." It had been a week since the incident in Rudra's office. Ananya had done her best to remain invisible, to stay out of his path, and to avoid making mistakes. But even when she succeeded, he always seemed to find something, some detail, to scold her for. Over the days, she learned that his anger wasn't something mild. It came like fire, sudden, consuming, dangerous, and she had no desire to be burnt again. Still, aside from a few outbursts, the week passed quietly. It was Saturday now. After preparing his breakfast, Ananya found herself with a rare luxury, free time. Unless Rudra gave specific orders, she could finally rest. She decided to visit the library, a quiet sanctuary where books could offer her the escape her life refused to. She had just begun to rinse a dish when a voice echoed through the halls. "Ananya!" The plate slipped from her hands and shattered in the sink. Kiara rushed to her side. "What happened? Did you do something? He sounds furious." Ananya shook her head. "I don't know what I've done this time." "Ananya!" The second shout was even louder, sending a chill down her spine. Without another word, Ananya ran upstairs, her heart pounding. His room was empty. She scanned the space in confusion until she saw movement behind the frosted glass of the bathroom. His silhouette stood upright, tense. She hesitated at the door, her hand frozen mid-air. "I want you in here. Now!" he barked, as if he could see through the glass. With a deep breath, Ananya stepped inside. The bathroom was humid, steam clinging to the air. Rudra stood in loose-fitting pants, bare-chested, droplets of water clinging to his skin. She immediately dropped her gaze to the floor. He didn't wait. "So this is how you plan to get back at me?" Her brows furrowed. "Sir?" "Don't play innocent," he snapped. "Do you think I can't see through that act?" I don't understand," she stammered. He pointed at the tub. "Why is the water so hot?" Ananya blinked. I thought it was cold outside. I just turned the tap up a little." "So now you've taken it upon yourself to decide what's best for me?" She shook her head. "No, sir, I didn't mean. Did I ask for hot water?" he barked, taking a step toward her. Her back hit the glass wall. "Who gave you permission to adjust it?" he demanded. Her throat tightened. "It was a mistake. I didn't realize." He leaned closer. "Mistake or not, there are consequences." Before she could react, he grabbed her wrist and dragged her toward the tub. Panic flared in her chest. "Please, I'm sorry. I won't do it again," she pleaded. "I'll make sure you don't," he said coldly. He pushed her gently but firmly into the tub. The water was hot, uncomfortably so, enough to sting. She gasped, hands splashing as she tried to steady herself. "Sir, it's too hot." "That's what I'm trying to tell you," he replied. She tried to sit upright, shifting her weight, but every time she moved, he blocked her with a hand. "My skin, it burns." "Let that be a reminder." "I've learned. Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. He watched her, then after a moment, pulled her out of the water and helped her stand. Her clothes clung to her, soaked and heavy, her skin tinged pink from the heat. She avoided his gaze, holding her arms around herself. She began. "I'm looking," he said, before she could finish. There was a shift in his expression. He wasn't yelling anymore, but the silence that replaced it was worse. He stared, unreadable. Ananya took a careful step back, trying to leave the bathroom, but he moved swiftly, blocking her with an arm. "Where do you think you're going?" He turned on the shower. Cold water poured from the ceiling, dousing both of them. She gasped at the sensation. It was sudden but soothing, cooling the heat that lingered on her skin. For a moment she simply stood there, eyes closed, letting the chill wash over her. It numbed the sting. It calmed her panic. When she opened her eyes again, he was still there, drenched, watching her. He stepped forward and caged her again with his arms. His expression wasn't anger anymore. It was something else, conflicted, unreadable. Their eyes met and held. She wanted to look away, but something about his gaze kept her still. He leaned in slightly, his voice low. "Your eyes, always playing tricks," he murmured. She flinched as his hand moved near her cheek, but he didn't touch her, just hovered. The air between them was thick with tension, heavy with things unsaid. "I don't know what game you're playing," he muttered, "but I will find out." Ananya clenched her fists. "I'm not playing any game," she whispered, but she wasn't sure he heard her, or wanted to. "How long could you hide yourself from me, huh?" Rudra murmured, rubbing Ananya's cheek with the back of his hand. Ananya stood frozen under the cold shower, uncertain where any of this was heading. Rudra's face moved closer, his lips skimming her jawline, the roughness of his light beard grazing her skin. They had been standing under the icy water for nearly 10 minutes. Though Rudra's body shielded her upper half, the chill seeped into her bones. Her feet were numb, and a shiver racked her frame. Rudra paused, hovering just above her neck, inhaling deeply before exhaling a cold breath against her damp skin. He placed a chaste kiss there, then began nuzzling gently while his hands rested on her bare waist. tracing lazy circles. The soaked fabric clung tightly to her body, making every movement and touch more pronounced. He lifted his head, blowing softly behind her ear before placing a kiss there. A tremulous moan escaped her lips involuntarily, and a strange flutter stirred in her stomach. New and unfamiliar sensations she didn't know how to process. Rudra chuckled darkly at her reaction. That sound jolted her. Shame and guilt clawed at her chest. How could she let herself feel even a flicker of pleasure after everything he'd done? After he'd called her a prostitute? Her body was betraying her, and she hated it. "What are you doing, Ananya?" Her inner voice scolded sharply. His lips traced a slow, sensual path from behind her ear to her collarbone. He wasn't kissing, just letting his lips brush her skin, heightening her sensitivity. She was slipping, losing her grip on reality. She had to stop him before something irreversible happened. Her hands pressed against his chest, intent on pushing him away. But before she could, Rudra shot her a look that froze her in place, a warning not to challenge him. That single, cold glance drained her of all resistance. His eyes locked with hers, then drifted to her trembling lips before returning. There was a visible war within him. He was trying, barely, to restrain himself. Ananya bit her lip to stop its quivering. "Fuck it," he muttered under his breath, then crashed his lips onto hers, his right hand wrapping around her throat. His grip was tight, firm, but not enough to choke. She stood paralyzed, a statue of shock. Rudra had stolen her first kiss, something she'd once dreamed of giving to someone who truly loved her. His hand tightened slightly around her neck, though he never restricted her breath. Seconds stretched endlessly as he began moving his lips against hers. The wall behind her kept her in place, her head unable to pull back. His lips were soft, deceptively warm, but her heart was cold, numb. She didn't respond. She didn't want this. Still, he continued, eyes closed, lips working against hers, one hand gripping her throat, the other trailing down her arm. Then suddenly, he stopped. He jerked back like he'd been electrocuted, his expression twisted with rage. His bloodshot eyes burned into her. "Get out of here!" he barked. She flinched at the sudden change in tone. "I said get out!" he roared again. Ananya turned and fled from the bathroom, her body trembling. Behind her, she heard his guttural groan, but she didn't dare look back. She darted into her room, closing the window to block the biting wind before curling into herself on the floor. Her mind raced with self-loathing. How could I let him touch me like that? Water dripped from her skin, soaking the floor beneath. She needed to change or risk falling ill, but who would look after her? She moved to the cupboard, about to change, when Rudra's voice shattered the silence. "Ananya!" he thundered, heart pounding. She ran to his room. "Where are my clothes?" he demanded. She glanced at the bed. His clothes were laid out. "Not those. I'm leaving for 2 days. Where is my bag?" He was leaving? For 2 days? Why didn't she know this? "Say something," he snapped. "Give me 5 minutes, sir," she stammered, her teeth chattering. Her lips had turned purple from the cold, an all too familiar reaction. Ignoring her state, she rushed to pack his bag and returned with it quickly. Still barefoot, still soaked, she stood on the freezing marble floor. Her headache intensified. Rudra, meanwhile, got dressed in silence, offering no concern for her condition. She turned to leave. "Where do you think you're going?" he asked coolly. "Did I ask you to leave?" She shook her head. "Come and button up my shirt." She gaped at him in disbelief. "Move fast, I'm getting late." With shaky fingers, she obeyed, avoiding his gaze. His comment, "Don't act like you've never seen a man," made her gulp. Her fingers, numb and uncoordinated, struggled with each button. His face remained unreadable, his eyes pinned to hers. After finally finishing, He motioned for her to help him with his coat. She complied. "Give me the comb." She turned to open the drawer, but a sudden sneeze jolted her, and a bottle fell and shattered on the floor. It looked expensive. Her breath caught. I'm sorry," she whispered. "Strip." Her eyes widened in shock. I'll pay for it, sir. I'm sorry." I said strip. Ananya stood frozen, quaking. Rudra turned her around and unzipped her dress in one swift motion. She clutched the fabric to her chest, as though it were her last defense. "Don't you dare move an inch," he growled, walking away. The cold air hit her bare back. A violent shiver coursed through her. He returned, placing his hands on her shoulders to pull the dress down. "No, sir. Please," she sobbed. "Shh. One more word, and I'll take you on this floor right now." Her eyes met his in the mirror. He wasn't bluffing. Terrified, she sealed her lips. Despite her struggle, he peeled the dress down to her waist. She instantly shielded herself with her arms and long, wet hair. Her back was completely exposed. "Raise your hands," he ordered. To be continued. Did you enjoy this first episode? If yes, type episode 2 in the comment section below for me to bring you the next episode as soon as possible. Thank you. This is Mr. Hope, your favorite narrator and bestie. Until we meet again, be good.